A distinguished army officer and a persecuted special operations commander develop a complex relationship through remote communication. The girl tries to establish peace and equality between her gender and her isolated comrades in a special area where they fight wars as slaves. The story begins with a girl named Vladilena waking up in her room to start a new day. From her clothes, it appears that she works in her country's military. After having breakfast with her mother, she leaves the house. It is interesting to note that everyone has the same hair color, as if they belong to the same tribe. On her way to work, she watches the news and learns that a battle has taken place at the military headquarters in San Magnolia, and that her country's forces have won without any casualties thanks to their robots. When Vladilena arrived at headquarters, she found all the officers in a pitiful state, with chaos reigning due to their excessive drinking. Then she heard one of them talking about yesterday's battle as if it were nothing, and what angered her was that they were talking about combat robots with indifference. When she set out to teach them a lesson, she ran into Henrietta on her way and was surprised that she was awake so early in the day. Henrietta told her that she had stayed up all night working, unlike those fools around them. Before Vladilena continued on her way to confront those who had mocked her, Henrietta told her that there was no point in arguing with them, as everyone believed that the enemy would disappear in 2 years' time, which made them complacent and negligent, and she would be the odd one out if she took the matter seriously. Then Vladilena listened to some officers complaining about having to listen to complaints from Sector 86, and Henrietta asked her directly why she was interested in Sector 86. She remained silent until a sound came from the bracelet she wore on her wrist, indicating the start of a clash somewhere. Vladilena headed to her office, sat down at her advanced computer, and began watching the war in the form of illustrations. She was giving instructions to her soldiers when one of them noticed that she was deliberately being nice only to those belonging to Sector 86, not the rest, describing them as mere inhuman soldiers. She was then surprised by General Jerome's decision to change her assigned unit. He told her that one of the officers in the unit was retiring and they would need someone to take his place. When she asked if this unit was defending a base so important that they had not appointed a successor for the senior officers, he told her that she would be transferred to Defense Line 1 in Sector 1, known as in the Spearhead Fleet. He added that the fleet was made up of warriors from all over the Eastern Theater. When Vladilena began reading about the fleet, she realized that she was not qualified to take on such a position as a new lieutenant in the army. Jerome told her that she was the youngest person to be promoted to this rank and warned her not to be too modest. Then he looked at the photo of them with her father and told her that he was confident that her father would be proud to see what his daughter had achieved so far. When he asked her about her mother Margreta, she told him that she never stopped talking to her about marriage. She then returned to asking if there was anyone else who could take over the leadership of the Heroes unit instead of her. He told her that the former commander of this unit was known as the Soul Catcher and destroyed any robot that got in his way. Vladilena was surprised by the fact that a healer was causing the destruction of robots and not the other way around. Jerome told her that all the soldiers in the Soul Reaper unit were demanding his retirement or transfer to another unit, to the point that some of them had committed suicide. When Vladilena felt afraid, Jerome told her that she was not obliged to accept the new position, but she decided to accept the challenge and take command of the unit. He told her that they did not need more than what was usual and that she should stop trying to get close to the processors. She should also stop writing the number of deaths in her reports, as there were no humans officially on the battlefield. When Vladilena objected, he told her that she was just like her father, then officially appointed her as commander of Unit 1 in Sector 1 and asked her to submit her report as soon as she arrived there. In the evening, Henrietta considered her strange for accepting the position. He told her that she had been given the honor of commanding the unit of heroes and that it was an important job for her. She also doubted the news of the soldier's death and bet that there were those who did not care about their work, so they resorted to fabricating a lie in order to get rid of him. Henrietta told her that one of the soldiers in Spearhead had lost his mind and shot himself in the head. Vladilena was surprised by the idea that someone would resort to suicide, and Henrietta told her that they had received a request to look into the matter and thought it might cause problems with what is known as the Para-Red. She added that all they had found was that there were no problems with the raid device and expressed her dissatisfaction with how Sector 86 had handled the matter. She then showed her an illustration of the effect of using the Para-Red on the brain and that it could cause significant damage to the brain when the user tried to combine sight and hearing at the same time. She then suggested that Vladilena join her in the Research and Development Department if she wanted to learn more about devices and robots, as her role as a soldier would end 2 years after the enemy disappeared, but she would continue her work if she joined the research field. However, Vladilena rejected her suggestion and told her that they were at war and she had to do her duty. She ended up enjoying a cake made by Henrietta from real ingredients, as they had been eating artificial food for a long time and eating real food was considered a luxury in the future. The next day, Vladilena's squad suffered a heavy loss, and when she tried to contact one of the soldiers, someone told her that he had died. She felt ashamed of her failure to lead the squad for the last time before moving to Spirehead. When she told her followers about her move to Spirehead, she found one of the soldiers asking her to convey his regards to the Reaper. The next day, in Sector 86, a soldier named Shiny sat checking his notebook until it was time for breakfast. He joined his colleagues at the table, who seemed to be enjoying themselves as they mocked one of the soldiers from their sector who had lost his mind in yesterday's battle. Then Shiny found one of his colleagues who preferred death under the command of their Reaper if their death was inevitable. On the same day, at night, they fought a bloody battle that ended with one of their colleagues being wounded. After the situation stabilized, he went to check on him and found that he was on the verge of death, so he was forced to give him a mercy shot. At night, Shiny sat down and engraved his friend's name on a piece of his robot to commemorate him. Then, to everyone's surprise, their new unit commander was a woman. Vladilena spoke to them through the devices they wore in their ears and told Shiny that she wanted to introduce herself to him as the new commander. He told her that he was the commander of the Spear Fleet division known as the Soul Catcher and looked forward to working with her. Shanae met with his colleagues who told him that the new commander seemed dangerous. While they were talking, he found the mechanic Aldrecht heading towards him in a state of rage because he had deliberately destroyed the vehicles on every mission. He told him that they did not have any extra parts to repair them and that they would have to wait until a new batch of equipment arrived. Then it occurred to him to use parts from the vehicle of one of the soldiers who had already been killed, and he asked Shani if he minded. Shani did not object, and when Aldrecht asked him about the new recruit who had joined their unit, Shani told him that she had called to greet them and that she wanted to maintain good communication between herself and the unit. Aldrecht assumed that she was just a poor soldier suffering from a miserable life, as this was unusual behavior for a distinguished soldier in the Republic. Shani placed the scrap metal engraved with his friend's name with the rest of the pieces belonging to their comrades who had died in the wars and engraved their names to commemorate them. The next day, Shani sat reviewing his notes while his comrades were preparing for the evening celebration, but suddenly they received a warning that an enemy army was approaching and that they were about to experience a storm that would cause radar malfunctions in 2 hours. They decided to turn back, and Shani held a meeting to explain the situation to them. He told them that there was a squadron of enemy forces near them, accompanied by another squadron behind them, and devised a plan to ambush them at a specific point so that they could destroy as many enemy vehicles as possible. After they got ready to start the plan, they found Vladilena contacting them to tell them to deal with the forces heading towards them, but she was surprised that Shani and his friends had already started moving and had a plan to trap them. 2 hours later, the enemy vehicles known as the Grolfalf Knights arrived. When they realized who their enemies were, they knew they had to take the battle seriously and waited for the right moment until the enemy forces reached a certain point. They ended up surrounded by the spearheads, who began firing a barrage of bullets and rockets at them from all directions. Shanae was directing his comrades during the battle, and during the fighting, he ordered them to retreat after seeing the warplanes that began firing missiles at them. Then Vladilena sent him the locations of the planes around them so that they could avoid them. He told her to stick to verbal communication during the battle, as sending data could easily reveal their location. When Raiden told him that there were a lot of enemies this time, he told him to think of it as a hunting trip and enjoy himself taking them down. Vladilena was surprised to see Shanae's movements towards the enemies, as he rushed towards them without hesitation and easily dodged their attacks. He then destroyed the vehicles one by one, moving with agility and speed. Vladilena realized how powerful he was, and over time he succeeded in eliminating a huge number of enemy soldiers, and the spearhead unit was victorious, won the first battle after Vladilena joined them. On the other side, Vladilena went to the lecture hall and couldn't control herself when the professor told the students that there had been no casualties in their army since the army started using drones. She then told them that she would now tell them the true history of the country and recounted how the Republic's army had been destroyed 9 years ago in the space of 2 weeks, prompting the government to take 2 decisions to withdraw all citizens to 85 administrative districts and to establish a law to maintain peace in times of war. She then added that all those who did not have hair and silver eyes like them would not be considered human and would be kept and monitored carefully in detention camps outside the 85 districts. This is how Sector 86 came into being and was separated from the rest of the sectors by building a fort between them. Then she showed the students an illustration of the combat vehicles and told them that they were vehicles driven and operated by humans, not autonomous combat vehicles as they were trying to make them believe. But they told them that there were no humans in them because everyone here did not consider those in Sector 86 to be human like them. One of the students told her that they were not human after all, but merely half humans who had failed to evolve and rise to their level. She told him that those in Sector 86 were human and died every day in wars, and that she fought alongside them. She was shocked when one of the students asked her if she had been to the battlefield before. Then she had to tell them that she had been to the battlefield once but had not fought, as the only people forced to risk their lives in battle were the 86. At that point, the professor began to reprimand her and accuse her of supporting the 86. She asked him what their national flag symbolized, and when he replied that it symbolized freedom, equality, brotherhood, justice, and nobility, and that this applied to humans and not to those belonging to 86, he asked her not to disclose false information to his students. However, she insisted on telling them that the members of 86 were humans just like them, different ages, but they did not enjoy the luxuries they had and were not allowed to see them. After that, she went to meet Henrietta, who told her that she might be punished for what she had said to the students, but she did not care because she was confident that Jerome would take care of it, and it was too late to change their country's mistake. When I asked her about her first meeting with the Soul Collector, she told me that they communicate constantly and talk about many things, and she feels that their hearts are connected even though they are apart. Then she began to recall the qualities that impressed her about him and said that he does not seem as scary as rumored. Henrietta noticed her heart rate increasing as she talked about Shanae, and when she returned to her room, she used the read to contact him and enjoyed talking to him all night long. Meanwhile, the residents of 86 were spending their time playing and eating. While Shanae was reading his diary, Raiden asked him about Vladilena and told him that if they had started moving according to her instructions, they would have started from an ideal starting point. Raiden told him that he felt she was not just a spoiled rich girl, and when his friends called him, he had to end the conversation and join them. After Shinny was left alone, Anju approached him and gave him a piece of the cake she had prepared. She was curious about what he was reading, so he told her that he resorted to reading when he felt like he was about to drown in his thoughts. Then Vladilena contacted them via para-read, and some of them felt resentful because she had been contacting them daily for a week. Shinny told her that they were just hanging out to pass the time, and she expressed her dissatisfaction that the reports he had written since his arrival in Spirehead were all similar. She asked him why she was interested in what was happening on the battlefield, and he replied that part of her job as a commander was to analyze the tactics and formations of the fleet. She asked him to send her the reports regularly and that she would read them. Shini told her that he was not good at reading and writing because there were no schools in their sector. Kai told her that he was just making that up because he was too lazy to write reports. She quickly became afraid that Shini would take her life, and he ended up being forced to send Vladilena a written report containing all the missions he had carried out. She then told everyone that she was the same age as them and asked them how long they had been in the army. They told her that they were all in their 4th year, while Shini was in his 5th, which made him their leader. When she asked him if he had any aspirations for after his term of service ended, he told her that he hadn't thought about it yet. She expressed her confidence that his mother would be fun if he tried to think of something, and Shini felt that she might be right. The next day, Haruto suggested that the young men go and peek at the girls while they were bathing in the river. When Daya refused and felt embarrassed, he told him that they might die tomorrow and that they should take advantage of opportunities while they were still alive. Daya insisted on his opinion and told them that they were supposed to be loyal friends to each other and considered it a betrayal. On the other hand, the girls were enjoying their time bathing in the river, while Kai was content to sit on the rocks and contemplate the view. Then it occurred to the girls to ask each other what they thought of Shiny as a person. Some of them teased Karina, knowing that she liked him, but she kept denying it. Kai said that he wasn't a bad person and that she liked his calmness and wisdom, which made Karina feel jealous. Kay told her that she would have pursued him if she hadn't cared so much about him, which made Karina blush as red as her hair, and she continued to deny her admiration for him, but they were all certain of her true feelings. Meanwhile, Daya and his friends ended up peeking at the girls from behind the bushes. Haruto and Theoto were surprised that he suddenly decided to accompany them and was staring at the girls more than they were. He justified this by saying that he came to observe their behavior. He ended up being exposed after they pushed him out of the grass, which led the girls to decide to stone him. Anju threw a knife at him and approached him to ask him why he had come, and he felt like he was about to wet his pants out of fear. Kay guessed that he had not come alone and managed to hit Theoto with a rock, which led to the discovery of the three of them and their direct interrogation. When Kai asked them what they were after, Daya had to explain it to them after Theoto and Haruto evaded the question and told them that they had come to ask them about something. Karina told them that they could have used the para red, but Theoto apologized, saying that they didn't want to interrupt their fun and that it would be awkward if they were talking about romantic matters. When Haruto mentioned Karina's admiration for Shine, the girls were distracted and thought they had forgotten about them, but they soon found Kay, turned to them again and asked them about the matter they wanted to inquire about. The three of them felt confused until Daya thought of asking them about the meaning of the word yubai. At that point, the three of them ended up getting severely beaten. In the evening, Karina felt angry about Shini's constant conversations with Vladilena every night, so she rushed out of the room, followed by Daya. She expressed her dissatisfaction with the situation and said that he should spend time with them because they could die at any moment. Daya tried to convince her that it was only temporary and that Vladilena would eventually stop calling and that it was just a waste of time. He then suggested that she tell Shini how upset she was about the woman's presence among them and that she wanted him to end it. Karina calmed down a little and apologized to him for her outburst, telling him that she could not forgive white-skinned, silver-haired people because they were the ones who had caused her mother's death after using her as a training target, as if she were just a doll after that. They returned to the others, and Vladilena was still chatting with them about many things. Raiden told her that the darkness during battles was so thick that it made the night seem frightening to them, but he remembered when he saw the stars twinkling in the sky for the first time and hesitated to mention what he had said then, but was surprised that Shine still remembered and told her that he had said that if this was the last thing he would ever see, it might not be so bad after all. Raiden felt embarrassed for telling Vladilena that, and they were surprised when she told them that she hoped to see such sights one day, as the lights in her city never went out at night. Kai told her that the nights here were very dark and that they were isolated from everything. Vladilena was curious to know if she hated her, and Kay replied that her feelings of discrimination and oppression angered her because of the difficulty of living in the sector, and she could not love people who had decided to consider them inhuman, isolate them in a remote area alone, and force them to fight constantly. Nevertheless, she believed that Alba like her are not bad, just as not all 86 are wonderful. Kai added that she belonged to one of the rarest races in the sector, but many things had happened in her previous unit. Despite this, she would not hate her just because she was an Alba. She confessed that she now saw her as an interesting woman. Earlier, Vladilena was with Henrietta in an abandoned library collecting evidence, and Henrietta told her not to get more involved with 86. She told her that they were all human beings and trusted each other. Then Henrietta managed to find a map showing the location of Sector 86 and its surroundings. After that, Vladilena returned to her room and decided to use that map to help them in battle. She used the para red to communicate with 86, and while she was talking to them, she was surprised to hear a cat's voice coming through. They told her that it was a cat they were taking care of after it was attacked by a tank that killed its parents, and for that reason, it preferred to stay with Shinimi more than the rest. Vladilena enjoyed listening to their stories and learning more about their way of life in the sector. When she asked them the cat's name, they told her that everyone called it whatever they wanted, so it didn't have a specific name. She drew a cat at the bottom of her diary page, then she found Kai telling her that she had become more interested in her and wanted to know her opinion on something. When she asked her why she was so interested in them, she replied that she had been rescued long ago on the battlefield by a healer who had told her how proud he was to contribute to the protection of his homeland, and that this was what motivated him to continue fighting. Moved by his words, she became convinced that they should all follow in his footsteps and expressed her dissatisfaction that they were always asked to fight but never watched them fight, and that her own kind did not even try to communicate with them. Suddenly, she was shocked to hear Kay ask her if she was still a virgin. Then she heard some noise coming from Kay's direction and tried to justify it by saying that she did not mean the literal meaning of the word, but that she believed Vladilena was just a little girl who thought the whole world was full of flowers, which made her not a bad person. So she warned her that her current job was not suitable for her and that she should not get involved with them because they were not fighting for noble causes. She then advised her not to talk to them anymore and to try to find someone to replace her before she regretted it. A few days later, they were in the midst of a battle, and while Vladilena was trying to help them with information, she found that they had already planned to attack the enemy, so she just watched. Then she suggested that they create a diversion by having one of them move to another point close to them in order to distract the enemy. But she was surprised when Raiden told her that she wanted them to use one of them as bait, and she found that it wasn't a bad idea. Kay guessed that she had obtained a new map, so Vladilena thought of sending it to them. When they were surprised that she did not mind sending such confidential information to them, she told them that it would be useless if they did not use it. While she was talking, they began their clash with the enemy. Vladilena watched the map to keep track of their movements, and suddenly saw Kai heading to attack an enemy vehicle head-on. Before she could warn her not to go to that area, Kai's vehicle was destroyed, and the last thing she heard from her was that she couldn't move and didn't want to die now, while the enemy was approaching her. After Kai's death and the end of the battle, Vladilena blamed herself and wished she had found the map earlier. She apologized to them for what had happened, but was quickly surprised when they told her that people like her didn't care about the death of one of their own and would quickly forget about it by dinner time, as they didn't have much to do here. They accused her of hypocrisy. Then Theodo poured his anger on her and told her that people like her would continue to treat them like trash and not recognize them as human beings, but rather see them as inferior. He told her that treating them kindly and communicating with them daily would not change the reality of the situation, because she did not even bother to ask them their real names. He told her that they were not fighting on the battlefield of their own free will, but because her race had forced them to face death every day. Every word he uttered tore Vladilena's heart apart even more, and made her realize how much hatred they harbored towards her and her ancestors. While Theodo was venting his anger, Raiden stopped him from continuing and told Vladilena to end the call because they were not in the mood to talk to her kindly. Theodo ended up blaming himself for Kai's death. The next day, the rest returned to their daily activities, while Theodo remained distracted. The others noticed that he had drawn a fox with angry features, so Karina asked him if he was upset about what he had said to Vladilena earlier, but he pretended not to care. He ended up being attacked by Karina, Anju, and Rekka, who took his coat. Anju then repaired the button that had fallen off during the battle, while Daya told him that he had acted out of character yesterday when he vented his anger at Vladilena, reminding him of the fox leader. Anju then confessed that they were all jealous because he had managed to meet someone like him and had become important to him, as she did not consider anyone belonging to the Alba to be of value to her. After that, Theodo went to the workshop and found Shini repairing his vehicle. It occurred to him to ask what the fox commander would have said to Vladilena if he had been in his place, but then he decided to let it go before hearing Shini's answer and told him that this white so would not communicate with them again. Shini told him that the fox commander would not have said that and knew very well that this was what he believed deep down, which made Theodo feel ashamed. In the evening, Shini went to his room and wrote Kai's name with the victims of war and wondered if Vladilena wanted to say something to him. The next day, Vladilena went to Henrietta, and when she told her what had happened yesterday, she told her that they had to accept that they lived in their own world, but Vladilena felt that she would never forgive herself if she thought of acting that way. Henrietta told her that it was impossible to think of going to Sector 86 and fighting with them, and that all she had to do now was pamper herself. When she told her that she had made her favorite cake, Vladilena told her that she was not in the mood for sweets. Henrietta was surprised that she considered not asking them their real names a big deal, since they didn't need to know their identities because they would never meet them. Vladilena told her that she knew her name because they were friends, and that a person's name expresses their identity, which made her realize that she hadn't treated them like human beings all this time. Henrietta told her that she was overreacting, and that she and the members of 86 were not friends, and that if she really thought of them as human beings, she would have asked them their real names when she first started communicating with them. She advised her that now was the right time to stop getting close to them. Vladilena felt resentful that she opposed them so strongly, so she told her that she had no other choice, because they were different from them in so many ways that getting involved with them in any way would lead to regret. Then I added that the war had already begun and they could no longer back down. I suggested that she return to the lab and stop leading the unit for a while, but Vladilena refused and left the lab in anger. On her way, she remembered when she went with her father Valkav to the battlefield, and while they were flying in the helicopter, they were suddenly attacked by 86 vehicles. At that moment, her uncle Jerome's voice interrupted her thoughts, and she told him that she couldn't stop thinking about what had happened in the past. She added that despite her sadness over what had happened to her father, she was happy that she had been able to see Sector 86 with her own eyes, which allowed her to hold on to the values that their country had abandoned. Jerome told her that her father was a good man who aspired to make their country a better place. He then expressed his shame that he had died at the hands of the enemy that day, but in the end, he was only an observer, something Valkav did not realize before his death, as he subconsciously felt that the members of Sector 86 were the only ones who died on the battlefield, which was why he took her there. Jerome expressed his desire that Vladilena not become like him and told her that she was doing a good job and that he was responsible for assigning her to lead a difficult unit because he wanted her to experience the reality of these people for herself, but that she was no longer obliged to do so. Vladilena refused to give up her position and wanted to continue working as the head of the spearhead unit. Jerome looked at her and asked her if she still upheld the values that their country stood for. He told her that values are considered values because they are unattainable, and that pursuing them despite knowing this fact is foolish. After that, Vladilena left, returning home, lost in thought about what Theodo had said. When she felt overwhelmed, she rushed to the war victims cemetery as fast as she could and decided to call Shine. When he answered her call, she apologized to him for what had happened yesterday and what had happened before that. Then she told him her full real name and asked him to tell her their names. names. He told her that she shouldn't be upset by what Theodo had said to her, as what he had said did not represent everyone's beliefs, because they knew that she had not imposed this situation on them and could not fix it herself. She told him that it was rude to communicate with them without knowing their names, but he told her that there was no need for that, as they were forced to wear identification badges on the barrage, even though the fleet could not be intercepted and that the processor's files were encrypted from them, all so that they would not be treated as human beings like themselves. Vladilena felt angry and told him that this was cowardly. She confessed that she had been thinking of escaping at some point, but she did not want to be a coward forever. She begged him to tell her their real names, and Shine had no choice but to grant her request. She began to write their names in her notebook. After she finished writing down everyone's names, she heard rustling sounds coming from him, and he told her that he was carving the name Kai since the 86 did not have graves, so they cut off the limbs of his unit and promised that when one of them died, they would carve his name on a piece of his vehicle until the last survivor took the rest to their final destination. And it always ended up with him, the last survivor, so he considered this part of his job in the unit. Vladilena was surprised by the fact that he had been doing this for 5 years, and when she asked him how many people had died so far, he replied that there were 561, and he still remembered them all because he felt responsible for taking all those who had fought alongside him to their final destination. Vladilena realized that this was why everyone called him the Soul Collector, and she told him that she had never faced the people she had left to die and had only felt bad about it and wanted to apologize to everyone. Shini decided to take her to them so she could express her feelings to them, and she did not hesitate to apologize to everyone for what had happened yesterday and for her behavior throughout the past period. She told them her real name and that she had only recently realized that she had not been treating them as human beings. When she asked them to tell her their real names, Theodo felt angry and considered it annoying, as Shini had already told her their names, but she told him that she wanted them to tell her their names themselves. He blamed Shini for not keeping quiet, even though Shini knew very well that he regretted the way he had said it. Theodo was forced to tell her that the emblem on his vehicle was a laughing fox and that he had gotten it from his former commander, who was of the same race as her. He added that despite his strength, he was a cheerful and lively person to the point of stupidity, and he believed it was wrong to fight the members of 86 alone, so he returned to the battlefield with his guards, but they ended up dead. Then he told her that he was not asking her to do the same, but that he would not consider her one of them as long as she hid behind walls. Then he told her his name at the end of his speech, and all the members of 86 followed him. When it was Raiden's turn, he apologized to her because they had previously believed that with her daily communications, she was trying to act like a saint or a hypocrite. Nevertheless, he agreed with Theodo that they would not consider her one of them, and that nothing would change no matter what happened. He expressed their desire to continue chatting with her in order to pass the time. When he advised her to look for another job besides being in charge of their unit, she told him that she would continue to contact them if it would help them have a good time. While Shineri was on his way to his room, Vladilena noticed that he had not yet told her his name. He told her that he had forgotten, and when he told her his full name, he was shocked when she asked him if he knew someone named Shori, nicknamed Doulahan. After Shine remembered a glimpse of his memories with this person, he told her that he was his older brother. Vladilena remembered when she was about to die after the helicopter she was in crashed with her father and their guards, and after they all died, she trembled with fear when she saw one of the enemy vehicles advancing towards her and about to fire at her. Then one of the 86 soldiers' vehicles appeared just in time to save her. After successfully destroying the vehicle, the commander came out to check on her, and it turned out that he was Shuri, Shani's older brother. He then took her with him and offered her some candy. When he was about to leave, she told him what her father had said about them doing terrible things to 86 and asked him why he was protecting her despite that. He replied that they were part of the state and it was their duty to fight and protect their country, and that he considered it a matter of pride and vowed to continue fighting until the end. Shuri was surprised when she approached him and gave him his chocolate bar. He told her that he had a younger brother the same age as her and expected him to have grown up and become strong. He then divided the chocolate bar between them. When she asked him why she hadn't seen his brother, he told her that he couldn't go home yet. Then he took her inside his vehicle and introduced himself to her, telling her that he and his brother were originally from a neighboring country called the Empire of Giad, which was the country that built the fleet. She was curious to ask him if he was not afraid of fighting, and he told her that he could not continue living unless he fought, and that he did not want to die because he wanted to see Shini when Vladilena returned to reality. She asked Shini what his brother was doing now, and he told her that he had died 5 years ago. Then he told her that he remembered that there was something he had to do after leaving the army, which was to find something he had been searching for 5 years the next day. Vladilena was on her way to work when she ran into Henrietta, who was wearing her military uniform this time. They spent time eating cake after arriving as usual. Then Henrietta suggested that they go shopping for dresses for next week's party together. Vladilena remembered that she had to attend the party even though she was somewhat busy, so Henrietta told her that she had been unavailable lately and suggested that she ask one of the men to accompany her, especially since she had heard that she had met one of them. Henrietta told her that he was a 5-year-old boy. When Vladilena looked at the wall, she saw that Henrietta had posted pictures of her potential partners whom she had already rejected. She asked why, and Henrietta replied that her team had done it as a joke. Then she noticed that Vladilena's face had turned pale, so she wanted to make sure she was okay and warned her against excessive use of para, read as sharing sensory data can lead to brain disorders. Vladilena told her that she had spent the night analyzing battle data, so Henrietta repeated that there was no point in offering her services to the members of 86. After leaving Henrietta's lab, she contacted Shini and told him that she did not want to go to the party for fear that a battle would start during it. He told her that they would be fine. And when she expressed surprise that her country was holding a party during wartime, he told her that nothing that happened within the walls affected them. He expressed his gratitude for her help in providing enemy analysis, but said that she should not spend her personal time doing so, as she she would end up like him if she spent her time constantly focusing on the battlefield. Vladilena decided to take his advice and enjoy herself a little. When he asked her if the party was for the Revolution Festival, she wondered how he knew about it. He replied that he remembered watching fireworks as a child in a park with a fountain in front of the palace. Vladilena glanced out the window and, upon seeing the palace in question, asked him if he had lived in Sector 1 as a child. He told her that he only remembered going everywhere with his brother and that he couldn't remember the faces or voices of any of his family members. She told him that Shori cared a lot about him and wanted to return home to stay with him. While she was talking to him, she was surprised to see two lovers kissing nearby. She blushed with embarrassment and ran quickly to her room. Then she was surprised when Shine told her that he was going to make some preparations with his friends, as they would have to fight a surprise battle shortly. She rushed back to the room, feeling confused because she had not received any warnings about an upcoming battle. When she asked him how he knew, she heard a commotion and found him asking her to end the call because there were many black sheep this time. She did not understand what he meant, and he told her that he would explain later. She refused to end the call because she would not know what would happen to them without the para red. He told her that he had warned her in advance and could do no more. When he began attacking the enemies alone, Vladilena was surprised to hear screams and cries for help echoing continuously, which terrified her. She couldn't bear it until she remembered Kai saying her last words. After that, she returned home feeling weak due to the effect of the para red on her brain. When she thought about using it again, the voices crept back into her head along with glimpses of unknown memories, and everything stopped with Kai screaming that she didn't want to die. It ended with Vladilena watching her reflection in the balcony glass, feeling ashamed. On the other side, it turned out that the enemy vehicles were using the frequency of the corpse's voices obtained from the members of 86 to distract them. During the fight, Shini was surprised to hear Kay's voice among them, as he had burned her body so that he couldn't obtain it. After that, the members of 86 succeeded in defeating the enemy, and after returning to headquarters, Raiden said that he felt as if everyone would lose consciousness from exhaustion, and guessed that they felt lonely because Vladilena did not contact them after hearing the voices and expected that she would not contact them again. But she was quickly surprised to hear Shine talking to her, and she apologized to him for losing control of herself that day. When she asked about the voices she heard, he told her that they were the voices of ghosts who had died but were still there, and he believed that he would die one day, which was why he could hear those voices. He added that their enemy was a defeated army with no reason to live after their empire disappeared. She then realized that the reason he knew when the fleet would arrive was because he could hear them. He told her that he always hears them, even while he sleeps. She wondered if he could hear them now and how far away they were. He replied that he did not know the exact distance, but he was aware of every fleet behind the borders of the former republic, and that he had grown accustomed to these voices as it had been going on for a long time. He then asked her if the government expected the war to end in 2 years, as Theoto had heard this information from their former commander, and also knew that the fleet had a timer that would run out in 2 years. She told him that the enemy's central processing unit was designed based on the human brain, which meant that it would stop working in 2 years. He guessed that they might need to replace the design with another one using materials available on the battlefield, such as the brains of dead humans. Then he told her that the enemy's nervous system was more advanced than any other creature, so burying the bodies of the 86 was forbidden so that their brains would rot and the enemy could not obtain them. However, they were able to take Kai's brain and make a copy of it as it was before their death. Vladilena realized that these were the so-called black sheep, the enemy's vehicles that hid among the ordinary vehicles and made ghostly sounds. Shini told her that they had become commonplace now, which made them vulnerable to losing the war before the end of the 2 years, as the fleet carrying the new designs would not stop working. She asked about the members of 86, and he told her that only the children fighting alongside him remained, assuring her that they would all die soon. He asked her if her people would go to war when that happened. Vladilena couldn't respond because she couldn't comprehend the idea that the war was continuing, and she told him that the enemy's fleets had been reduced by half compared to previous years. He told her that these were only the fleets they could monitor, but there were many more at the rear of the army. He added that the black sheep were still capable of better treatment than the regular fleet, which had suffered great damage when it took over the brains of the dead, and wondered what would happen if they obtained an undamaged brain belonging to a commander leading the fleet. Vladilena was shocked that this was not a hypothesis and that they actually existed. Shini told her that he could hear their voices, as the commander's voices carried very far, and that one of them was located behind Combat Sector 1. Vladilena thought that they had to destroy the fleets before all 86 of them were wiped out, and she vowed to do her best to help them, as she also wanted to help him stay alive until his term of service ended and he left the army. Shanae remembered when he was young and was fighting, and ended up inside a large library. After the fighting ended, he wandered alone outside until he ended up in front of a vehicle bearing the logo of the Reaper, inside which was a decomposing corpse. He then realized that he had found Shuri's body after his death and that his head had already been taken. Years later, the members of 86 were suffering from the intense heat as they wandered around in their vehicles and got to know each other, as each of them belonged to a different country or region. After Daya, Haruto, and Luis became friends, they couldn't stop talking about the girls they admired. Then Theoto and Nico joined them, and Daya ended up being exposed in front of everyone after Theoto said loudly that he wanted to talk to Anju. Then he was surprised when she walked towards him, so he tried to make up an excuse and asked her if she was the only girl in their group. Nico told them that he had heard that there was a rich girl who worked as an officer in charge of the units, and then they all started mocking and bullying her. Theoto drew a caricature of her, imagining her with the body of a woman and the head of a pig, and they all imagined her reaction when she started talking to them, while Daya sarcastically said that she might be a goddess who had descended to Earth to save them. After that, everyone spent their time dancing and playing while Shinebi watched them from afar. Kei joined him, wondering if they were under the influence of alcohol, but he told her that they were just enjoying themselves, as the cups contained only water. water. She looked around and saw many flowering trees and remembered that at first, the people heading into battle hated cherry blossoms because they have a short lifespan, blooming and falling at the same time. Then she pointed to Shini on her boat and told him that she was the one who made the emblem on it. When she asked him about the emblem on his boat, he told her that it did not belong to him. When Nico invited them to join them, she expressed her happiness that there had been no surprise attack while they were here. Then the girls joined them and told Kay the common story about his emblem, that he was supposed to be a reaper looking for his lost head, and they guessed that if he removed the scarf from his neck, they would not find his head. Then they all told him that they were looking forward to working with him as their leader. Raiden told him that he had become widely known among everyone, and then everyone was surprised by the sudden appearance of shooting stars in the sky and rushed to see them, leaving him behind. 4 months later, the members of 86 fought a war in the same place under the leadership of Vladilena after losing many of their comrades that day. Then they were surprised to find themselves facing Scorpion-type vehicles that outnumbered and outpowered them. Despite this, they continued to fight them. Following Vladilena's plan, however, Rekka's vehicle was severely damaged in the middle of the battle, forcing Daya to risk his own life to rescue her. However, he ended up falling after his vehicle was destroyed. He felt that he was on the verge of death after a group of small burning robots jumped towards him and his ammunition ran out. Before he could finish his last sentence, the robots caused a loud explosion in his vehicle. Now on the other side, Rekka was fighting to the last breath and tried to shoot the enemy vehicle with her pistol. When she realized that her death was inevitable, she decided to end her life herself and told Shini that she would rely on him to continue fighting until the end. Shini and his remaining comrades continued to fight despite the loss of their friends. After the war ended in the morning, Shini asked Vladilena to end the connection as he was going to shoot Daya before he turned into a monster. Vladilena refused to end the call and told him that it was her duty as a leader to stay with them until the end. After giving Daya a mercy killing, he was surprised to hear a noise near his vehicle. After returning to headquarters, everyone noticed that Anju was not well, but she pretended to be strong in front of them. In the evening, Shini and Raiden were talking about it, and Shini told him that it was only a matter of time before everyone died. Raiden wondered if he intended to continue fighting even if he was the last survivor in order to fulfill his dream of building a tomb for his brother. Shini told him that this was all he could do after his brother refused to forgive him before he died. Raiden then realized that he was still obsessed with his brother's head, while Shini entered his room and carved the names of his comrades who had died that day to join the rest. Then he remembered the voice he heard after Daya took his life, the voice of Shori, who kept blaming him for everything that had happened, and he remembered when he had his hand around his neck as a child, telling him that he was the reason for their parents' death and that he would also be the reason for his death. The next day, Vladilena was eating the birthday cake Henrietta had made for her. Then she gave her a small gift. Vladilena was surprised that she had brought another gift and told her that she had already received her first gift. She then wondered why Henrietta had chosen a rocking chair as a gift for her, and Henrietta told her that someone named Nikolaus had given it to her, but she wasn't using it. Vladilena's recent appearance suggested to her that she needed some sleep, so she thought it would be a suitable gift for her. When Henrietta asked her about what she had come to ask her, Vladilena felt confused and wondered if the bearer red could theoretically affect the brain. She replied that in this case, they would open the therapist's skull and conduct a thorough examination of his brain, which is what they intended to do with Shini. Upon completion, they would throw him away, but when it came to an officer, he would be transferred to another unit after the examination. Vladilena was shocked to hear this and decided to leave quickly. Henrietta then told her that she would make the usual cake next year. In the evening, Vladilena sat in her room looking at the drawing she had made to imagine what the 86 members looked like, and she felt sorry that Shini had to give his comrades a merciful death to prevent them from becoming part of the enemy fleet. After that, she went to Jerome and told him what had happened in the last battle. He asked her how many vehicles they had left, and she replied that there were 16 members of 86 left. She then made a suggestion that might help reduce the number of casualties by using a military mortar and supporting the 86 forces with it. He told her that the mortar needed to be reloaded after firing and that it was located in the middle of a minefield, making its extraction very risky. He added that he did not intend to do this for the 86, as they could be replaced. Unlike the state soldiers, Vladilena felt angry at his disregard for the lives of the 86th and his treatment of them as scum. When she tried to object and tell him that they were human beings like them and were suffering on the battlefield, he told her that he had warned her in advance not to get involved with them. He then gave her a report and told her that he intended to assign them the task of destroying a fleet base under construction near their area. She was surprised that he intended to involve them in another battle before compensating those who had been lost, and told him that they needed replacements, as was the case with other units. He told her that if the base was not destroyed before it was completed, the first to suffer would be the members of 86 themselves, and that she had to make them carry out the mission if she wanted to save them. Vladilena was forced to submit to the current situation and told Shinai about the mission. She apologized to him for not being able to make them wait until replacements for those they had lost could be provided. Shinai told her that they already knew about the fleet's base and that he believed it was just a trap. She was surprised that he agreed to attack the base even though he knew it was a trap. Then she felt frustrated at her failure to obtain permission to use the mortar. They told her that they had never seen it used before and that they had not planned to rely on it in the first place. Before she ended the call, she was surprised when Shinai asked her if she was suffering from something after noticing the tension in her voice. He then asked her to take a break and suggested she eat some candy to relieve her stress. Vladilena smiled and told him that he was suddenly talking like his brother, and she remembered that he had given her half a bar of chocolate when things got bad. Shinai asked her what his facial expressions were like when he was talking about him, and she replied that he was smiling and had kind eyes. Without realizing it, she told him that the time she spent talking to him about anything was very important to her. She quickly blushed with embarrassment and ended the call. A few days later, Vladilena decided to help 86 by allowing supplies to be sent to them through the Republican army. When the employee asked what was in the box, she told him it contained special ammunition and then bribed him to keep quiet and not ask any more questions. After that, Vladilena returned and noticed some people making preparations for the upcoming Revolution Festival. She ended up stumbling and falling in front of them, which made her feel embarrassed, so she quickly left the place. She returned to her office and used the barrier to contact 86. After finishing her work in the evening, she was surprised on her way home by the start of the Revolution Festival celebrations, with everyone taking pictures together and setting off fireworks in the sky. She remembered when Karina told her that they didn't need her for anything and that nothing would change if they didn't have a unit leader. She also wondered if trying to resist the madness while she was there would distract them. So Vladilena wondered if they were bothered by hearing the voices of their ghost comrades all the time. Then her thoughts were interrupted by the sound of a child in pain after falling to the ground, and she remembered what Karina had told her, that people like them had to listen to the screams of death all the time and that the best way for them to die was when the vehicle exploded with them inside. As she listened to the suffering of the members of 86, she saw everyone around her celebrating and continuing to live as if there was no suffering in this world. She returned home and contacted them via Parareed, but was surprised to find that Shini was not there. Raiden told her that he was tired and had gone to bed early, so she wondered if he was tired because of the ghost voices he heard. Theoto told her that she couldn't help them with that, and that they sometimes felt tired from the idea of being in that sector. She told them that she knew very well that tension was increasing among them with the increase in the number of deaths after each battle, and that they had not been given a new member since she took command. She decided to make it happen faster and asked them to hold on a little longer. The next day, Vladilena went to see Jerome and told him that she couldn't wait any longer and that he had to give 86 some new members to make up for the losses. As she was about to beg him, he told her that the resupply plans for the Eastern Theater had been finalized and asked her to continue doing her duty until the supplies arrived. Vladilena felt relieved that they would finally get some support, while Jerome reminded her of the date of the Revolution Festival and that she should choose appropriate outfits to represent her family in the best possible way during the ceremony. When the time came for the ceremony, Vladilena chose a dark black dress and succeeded in making the men not want to ask her to dance. When Henrietta arrived, she was immediately surprised when she saw her and told her that she looked like she was in mourning. While they were talking, Henrietta was surprised when she saw one of the men who had previously wanted to date her attending the ceremony at the party and quickly ran away before he noticed her. Then Vladilena received a surprise call from Shini. She thought something was wrong, but he told her that he had thought of calling her when she didn't call at the usual time. He also wanted to tell her that the ammunition shipment had arrived and expressed his gratitude to her for giving them the opportunity to celebrate the festival with fireworks. She told him that she was sure the fireworks would look more beautiful in the sky in their area. Then she wanted to make a promise with him that they would watch the fireworks together one day after he left the army. She wished that his friends could have seen the fireworks before they died. He told her that he was sure they were grateful now. Anju was finally able to cry, as she was one of those people who kept their feelings inside. Shine expressed his happiness that she still remembered Shuri because he couldn't remember him. When he asked her if she would continue to remember them after they all died, she felt sad and promised him that she would not let anyone else die. That morning, Shini received a shipment of ammunition from the state army and had to endure their mockery and belittlement so as not to cause trouble for Vladilena. After they left, he opened the box and found a large set of fireworks inside. The others were excited when they saw the fireworks, while Karina felt angry and thought about telling Vladilena to stop getting close to them because the situation had escalated and she was now sending them gifts. She thought it would be best for everyone if they told her to stop communicating with them, since the others were keeping quiet about not telling her. Anju remembered what Kai had said, that she wasn't a bad person, but that they shouldn't get involved with her, and she guessed that this was why Shani and Raiden hadn't told her about it, because they thought it might hurt her. While she was thinking, Karina wanted to make sure Anju was okay, as she had never bathed with another girl before Anju told her that she didn't mind now. Then she remembered Daya expressing his admiration for her hair when they first met, even though he knew the real reason she had grown it long. Karina then remembered the first time she saw Shini euthanize one of their comrades, and she felt sad. She wondered who would euthanize him a mercy kill when his turn came. After that, they fought 86 battles against the enemy fleet, and when Vladilena warned them of the existence of long-range artillery, Shini was shocked by the possibility of clashing with his brother's ghost in battle. But Vladilena decided to order them to retreat and not risk facing a super vehicle. After the 86 successfully escaped, Vladilena promised them that they would get new members as soon as possible so that they could fight comfortably without worrying about a shortage of soldiers. She couldn't control her anger, as the general had already told her that their request for supplies had been approved. Shini wanted to consult with his comrades before telling her what he wanted to say, and when he got their approval, he told her to stop helping them because nothing would change, no matter how hard she tried, and the army would not send replacements so that they could be completely wiped out, which was the original plan of her country. Vladilena couldn't comprehend what he was saying, so Haruto told her that they would send a new batch of soldiers after they all died, as they had received a shipment of new vehicles for them. Raiden added that the army would not allow any of them to survive, and Theodo told her that recruiting them for only 5 years was just a lie so that they could easily eliminate them. Then they told her that the army was deliberately doing this because they did not want the residents of Sector 86 to cause a revolution, so they considered themselves smart because they had managed to survive until now, and the rest considered them heroes because they were still fighting despite knowing their inevitable fate. Vladilena realized the horror of the fact that they were being forced to fight until the last one of them died, and that Sector 86 was nothing but a huge massacre. Karina told her that no one who went to war had ever returned and that they were not allowed to leave the camps. She asked them why they chose to continue fighting despite all this, and why they did not think of escaping or taking revenge on the Republic. Raiden told her that revenge was not difficult, as all they had to do was sit back and allow the fleet to invade the country's borders, but they would end up dead too. He then told her that he refused to do so because an elderly woman from Alba had protected him in Sector 9 when he was 12 years old, and Shini was raised by a priest from Alba who was one of those who refused to give up their land and ended up being sent to the camps. He added that some of them had Alba blood and each of them had a past with this race. But even though most of the Alba were just a bunch of scum, there were good people among them who defended them as best they could, so they each decided to go their own way and chose to die fighting as long as their fate was death. A few days later, Shini was carrying several pieces of vehicles belonging to their comrades who had died earlier, and told Raiden that Kino's team had not found Chissy's vehicle. Raiden told him that what happened in the last battle was not his fault, but that the fleet wanted to test their new weapon, which resulted in the deaths of 4 of them at once. Shine thought that if this weapon was completed, it could cause the fall of the Republic. While they were talking, Shine heard Shuri's voice, and this time he managed to locate him and found that he was also pursuing him. He asked Raiden if he wanted to commit suicide before he died tomorrow, but Raiden told him that they would all follow him until the end. And meanwhile, Vladilena couldn't stop thinking about what the members of 86 had told her. When she looked at all the missions they had carried out, she became furious and ended up visiting Henrietta late at night to ask for her help. Henrietta told her that there was nothing they could do for them and advised her to give up and not think about it too much, which made Vladilena angry, and she yelled at her to stop acting like a bad person. Henrietta became angry and told her that she was the one who should stop acting like a hero because there was nothing they could do to save them. She then pointed to the house next door and told her that the neighbors were scientists on her father's research team and that their families had been close, but everything changed after the war began because their sons were members of 86. She added that they were brothers she used to accompany to school and play with during recess. But after a while, they stopped coming to school and her classmates began to bully her because she was friends with people with dirty skin. As they put it, at that moment, she felt a lump in her throat because she was unable to do anything. However, her younger brother, who was the same age as her, knew nothing about it and wanted to continue playing with her in their yard, but she refused, and they got into a fight, and she slipped and called him dirty skinned. Henrietta felt afraid of herself for daring to say that to him. When her father wanted to take them in, she refused and told him that they were not her friends and that she would not put herself in danger for them. They ended up being sent to the camp the next day, while all Henrietta could do was convince herself that there was nothing she could have done. Then she told Vladilena that she was just as guilty as her, even though she tried to act like a saint. She then took her to the place where the brothers lived and told her that they had a strange power inherited from their mother, whereby they were able to know what another person was feeling without speaking to them. She added that this talent had aroused her father's interest, but when the army discovered their ability, they ordered her father to perfect a device that mimicked their power to replace the radio. The result was the para-red device, which she used to communicate with the members of 86. Vladilena was shocked when he told her that this device was created by sacrificing many of the inhabitants of 86, using them as test subjects, as the device relied on the sharing of words between its users, which made animals unsuitable for testing. In addition, all the participants in the experiment were children, and they all ended up dying in agony. As a result, her father committed suicide because he couldn't bear it, and he didn't die as a result of an error in the para-red settings, as rumored. This made her realize that she deserved to die because she had abandoned her friends like him, and she decided then to take over her father's research, including the victims. Henrietta added that Vladilena was no different from her, but might even be worse, because she deliberately got involved with 86 more and kept them alive, and now they had been ordered to die. She blamed her, saying that if she had neglected her work and left them to die, they would not have been assigned a suicide mission. Vladilena left her home after Henrietta told her that she hated her and did not want to see her again. As the days passed, Vladilena was lost in her thoughts, torn between what Henrietta had said and her previous pledge not to let any of them die. She then decided to go to Jerome and tell him of her desire to cancel the reconnaissance mission that 86 had been assigned to, because it made no sense for them to continue advancing toward enemy territory to their deaths for no reason. He told her that it was in the country's best interest for all 86 members to die. He added that if people found out what they had done to them at the end of the war, the Republic would become a pariah state, and history would describe them as tyrants. He aimed to exterminate them all and wipe them out of existence so that no one could fabricate accusations against the state in any way. Vladilena told him that they were part of the state and that they had to protect them, as the saint had said to take care of every member of their people. Jerome told her that this country was full of stupid and evil people, as they had previously executed the saint out of greed for wealth, and that she should not expect anything from people like them. He then told her that it was too late to seek freedom and equality. Vladilena refused to face the truth and accused him of trying to justify his sense of despair. He told her that she was free to talk about her hopes and aspirations, but that she would not be able to convince anyone of what was in her mind, as hope and despair were two sides of the same coin. She wanted something and unable to obtain it. Vladilena surrendered to reality and informed Shini of the mission they had been assigned. She apologized for her inability to do anything and tried to convince him not to accept it and to escape. He told her that everyone would die one day and that he could not blame anyone because that day had come early. Vladilena was angry because he had come to terms with the idea of his death and that of all his companions, so he told her that they would not die, but would finally have the opportunity to follow the path they had chosen and become free after reaching the place they wanted to go, and that they must fight to move forward. Then Vladilena remembered the goal he was pursuing and that he did not want to die until he had achieved it. She realized that he was seeking to destroy his brother and begged him to give up the idea of fighting, because he would not be able to face his brother, even if he became an enemy. He told her that he would not be able to get anywhere without getting rid of him, and before ending the call, he asked her to stop communicating with them because he did not want her to hear Shuri's last words. The call ended after she she heard their plan of action against the enemy. Now on the other side, Shinee found that everything was ready for their final battle, and Lev told him not to fight recklessly as usual, but Shinee could not promise him that. Then he placed Haruto's name with the rest of the dead in the box. Raiden told him that he felt sorry for his departure, as he would have gone with them on an enjoyable trip if he had been alive. The remaining members of 86 prepared to leave, and each of them bid farewell to the headquarters where they had stayed together in their own way. The next day, the 5 remaining members of 86 sat down to eat their last meal together before leaving. They remembered when they had all gathered in this place on their first day and vowed not to become like pigs and to fight to the end. On their way through Theodo, he expressed his annoyance that Vladilena had not contacted them before the mission began, and Anju agreed with him that she should have said goodbye to them before they met their demise. When they reached their vehicles, they were surprised to find snacks in each vehicle and quickly realized that Lev had put them there. Then they prepared for their last mission together and began to move toward enemy territory. After they left, the headquarters was completely empty. On the other hand, Shori remembered his last moments when he almost caused Shinee's death after being overcome with anger. He kept blaming him for the death of their parents after they were forced to go to war because of him. He admitted that what happened was not his fault, but he wanted to protect him so badly. After the enemy took his head, he ended up as the commander of the fleet that would wage war against Shinee and his companions. He realized then that no matter what he did, he would not be able to protect his younger brother, so he would ensure his death so that they could remain together forever. He began to move toward the vehicles of the members of 86. The members of 86 realized that they were about to face all of the enemy's vehicles after seeing a huge army of them heading towards them and hearing the voices of the ghosts growing louder. Shinee was happy when he found his brother among them and ordered his squad to continue advancing and try to hide in the forest until he defeated them. Raiden refused to carry out his orders and decided to continue advancing with him and not let him die. Then the enemy army attacked first, and Shinee rushed toward them enthusiastically to get Shori. When the clash between the two sides began, they noticed that the enemy was trying to separate them from Shinee and that they were not fighting in the usual way. Raiden realized that this was the work of Shuri, who wanted to spend time with his younger brother. Shinee was surprised that his bullets had no effect on the enemy vehicles, and he quickly realized that Shuri wanted him to get as close to him as possible so that he could finish him off with his own hands, while the rest of them were trying their best to reduce the number of enemies. But their numbers continued to increase. Then they were shocked to see missiles forming wings in the sky before raining down on their heads like rain. Suddenly, Raiden felt that someone wanted to share his visual perception, and when he realized that Vladilena was communicating with them in the midst of battle, he felt angry and told her that it could cause her blindness, as they were about to face weapons that they were not authorized for her to use. She told them that disobeying orders and using weapons without permission would not cause her death, as the state did not follow any logical rules, making it unnecessary for her to do so. Raiden burst out laughing when she said that she was not doing it for them, but because the Republic would be in danger if the enemy broke through their ranks. When she asked them about Shinee, he told her that he had gone to fight his brother. Meanwhile, Shinee managed to sneak up on Shuri's vehicle until he was standing directly in front of it. He then decided to manipulate him by moving quickly between the trees of the forest so as not to give him a clear view. When the moment was right, Shinee was able to jump towards him and cause serious damage to his vehicle, but he was surprised when he found the vehicle firing sticky arms at him, and Shuri was able to catch him and throw him a long distance away. On the other side, the members of 86 saw that the enemy was suddenly retreating and felt relieved that they would not have to face such a large number of enemies. However, they were quickly shocked when they saw Shinee's vehicle lying on its side and Shuri heading towards him to finish him off. Vladilena asked Karina to send her the enemy's coordinates in exchange for allowing her to attack them with targeting waves. She almost refused her request for a moment, but decided to trust her in order to save Shinee. Now on the other hand, Shuri was happy that he was close to reuniting with his brother and decided to get rid of his human body first, but he found his companions advancing towards him, fighting the rest of his followers, so he decided to get rid of them himself. But he was surprised by a sudden missile landing at full speed towards him, so he became angry because it might hit Shinee, and decided to stand between them and take the full brunt of the damage alone in order to protect him. After Shuri was severely damaged by the missiles that hit him all at once, the others tried to wake Shinee, but he was unconscious and bleeding heavily. Then he felt Shuri's hands tearing at his neck, as if trying to strangle him as he had done in the past. He realized that Shuri had not forgiven him, so he decided to get rid of him and grant him eternal rest. Then he jumped towards him and said goodbye before firing his missile directly at the weakest part of his vehicle. When Shuri saw his face, he realized that he no longer needed him to hold his hand as before, and apologized to him before meeting his end. On the other side, Shinee felt a lump in his throat when he remembered Shuri's features, and began to cry like a child after causing his death. By morning, the war was over, and the 5 were able to survive thanks to Vladilena's help. Shinee decided to give up his tie on the other hand. While Shinee was crying, Raiden asked her to cut the connection because he might not want anyone to hear him now. Then it turned out that Henrietta had conspired to help her after Vladilena went to her yesterday and asked her to help her use her sense of sight through the para-red because she was about to use the Republic Army's artillery control system. Henrietta initially refused to get involved with her and be part of her plan, but she was shocked when she found out that she knew Shinee and that he was the boy she used to play with when she was little and whom she had abandoned. Vladilena told her that there weren't many members of Sector 1 who were their age and had an older brother, and that he was the leader she communicated with all the time through para-reed, and his alias was Soulcatcher. Henrietta wondered if he had told him anything about her and thought that he still hated her, but Vladilena gave her the choice between helping her or ignoring the matter as she had done before and abandoning him for the 3rd time. After the battle ended, Henrietta was about to leave, and when Vladilena told her that Shinee was still alive thanks to her, she said that she wasn't the one who saved him. After she left, Vladilena felt relieved that her plan had succeeded. Then she received a call from Shinee telling telling her that he could hear her voice during the fight. Vladilena felt relieved that they were all safe after they expressed their gratitude to her and told her that they were surprised by her sudden transformation into a bad girl. Karina sarcastically said that she thought she was planning to blow them up with the enemy's vehicles. Then Shanae expressed his gratitude to her in particular because he was able to lay his brother to rest in peace thanks to her. She told him that it was a coincidence and promised to do her best for them all next time. Then she was shocked when she heard them planning to continue advancing to the enemy base despite their vehicles being damaged and running out of ammunition. They felt relieved that no one was chasing them and that they would be able to go as far as possible. They told her to do her best with the next unit after their death. Then Vladilena rushed out of her headquarters while the members of 86 were chatting on their way to their deaths. Vladilena kept running as fast as she could until she heard that they had reached the borders of the Republic and were happy that they had finally made it out of 86. Vladilena stopped running from exhaustion and began crying. Then she found Shanae telling her that they would continue moving forward before communication between them was cut off and their vehicles disappeared from the satellites. The members of 86 succeeded in going outside their sector and seeing new landscapes they had never seen before. They inspected everything around them and tried different things, as if they were enjoying life for the first time after the hardships of war. After several days, they ended up standing near a beach and found that they could not cross the sea with their vehicles, and they were unfamiliar with the area they were currently in. At that point, Shinny wondered if they should continue moving forward. They decided to take a break for a while after becoming free to enjoy themselves a little, then spent the whole day near the sea. The next day, Raiden felt as if they were the last people alive in the world, so Shinny sarcastically said that he never imagined someone like him could be romantic. Then Shinny thought that their companions who had gone before them might not be dead, and felt that they had only disappeared. When Raiden asked him how many there were, he told him that there were 576, including Shuri. Then Raiden was surprised to find that he had already carved his name using their robotic puppy. Then he wondered how far he would be able to take them with him, and he replied that there was a limit to the number of days they could continue without supplies. When Raiden asked him if Vladilena had asked him before what he intended to do after finishing his service, he replied that he had not thought about it before. After that, the five of them sat down to eat together, then decided to head to a town near them, which was a city in the old empire. They continued to explore the abandoned city, and Shinny thought that they all belonged to different cities originally, and that if it weren't for the war, they would never have met. Raiden asked him if the city brought back memories, and he told him that his parents were born there, but he had never visited the city and did not remember his parents. Suddenly, he stopped near a dark tunnel and was about to enter it, but Raiden grabbed him and told him not to run away. Shinny told him that they were in enemy territory and that it was natural for their voices to continue echoing in his head, but that it wasn't so bad as long as they didn't have to fight. In the evening, Anju and Karina enjoyed their time taking a warm bath while the rest sat listening to their nonsense. After that, Karina sat contemplating Shinny as he slept, feeling happy, while Raiden told them that he had been laughing a lot lately. The rest noticed that he had become kinder and was making jokes while talking, and they interpreted this as him feeling at peace after achieving his goal, while Raiden felt that he no longer had anything. The next day, they were surprised to find him gone when they woke up. They found that he had left his vehicle and the Para Red, but had taken his gun with him. They searched for him throughout the abandoned city until they found him in a zoo. Raiden was shocked when he found him heading toward one of the enemy vehicles, so he rushed toward him and told Shinny that there was no need to worry, as the vehicle was damaged and couldn't move. He added that he noticed the vehicle was slowly approaching them and did not appear to be from a reconnaissance unit. He intended to ignore it, but he felt as if someone inside the vehicle had been calling him since yesterday. He approached the vehicle and heard the ghost inside saying that he wanted to go home. Shiny took out his gun and decided to give his former colleague a merciful death with a single bullet. He then asked Raiden if there were any countries that had survived besides the Republic, and Raiden told him that there were places beyond the old borders that the enemy could not reach. Shinny thought that they could go to one of these places and live there in peace if there were people living there, and the end of their journey would be their arrival in paradise and a new beginning in another country. The robot remembered the past when Shinny was repairing some malfunctions in his vehicle and found him staring at him. This was their first encounter, and Shinny realized that he was the only survivor after the death of his kind, and the robot was in a pitiful state. Shinny decided then to take him with him until they returned to the squad's headquarters. When he returned, he found a delegation from the state army appointing new members to the sector to fight with him. While they were treating the rest with contempt, Shinny approached one of them and pretended to attack him, then picked up a nail from the ground and threw it at the wall, which caused surprise among the rest and the robot as well. Since then, the robot has been living with them, listening to their stories and sharing their moments inside the headquarters until Lev decided to send him with the last remaining members of the squad and asked him to keep them safe. The last face he saw was that of his close friend Shinny before he was blown up by one of the enemy's missiles, which launched a thunderous attack on the last survivors of the 86 members. Karina regained consciousness inside her wrecked vehicle and found her comrades still fighting with everything they had. Some of them were forced to fight with pistols after the vehicle ran out of ammunition. While Shinny was fighting the enemy vehicles, she was surprised to see the robot take a thunderous blow instead of him, leaving him unable to move. The next day, after the battle ended, Shinny examined the robot and found that he would not be able to take it with them any further after it had completely broken down. He decided to take a piece of it and engrave his name on it to immortalize his memory along with all those who had died. He then told Raiden that he did not think they could continue much further, as his was the only vehicle that could still move, and they did not have much food or ammunition left. They decided to take turns driving Shinny's vehicle. Karina decided to drive his vehicle first, as she was the first to crash her vehicle and was not as exhausted as the others. They agreed that they would leave the fighting to whoever was driving when enemy vehicles appeared at any time. After that, they continued on their way forward. Then Shinny noticed that the weather was changing, so he asked Karina to head towards a cave on a slope. They ended up sheltering from the heavy rain inside it, ready to fight if they noticed the enemy's presence. The next day, they continued on their way after the rain stopped and realized that they were approaching the enemy base after noticing that the number of vehicles was increasing. As time passed, they ended up heading to a school in an abandoned village, and it was the first time Karina had seen what the school looked like. She decided that they should stay there for the night, and the others agreed. When she entered the classroom, she stared at what was written on the blackboard while Anju played the role of the teacher and the others played the students, which made Karina happy and made her feel like a student. In the evening, they used the wood from the tables and books to light a fire for warmth at night, and they all sat around the fire chatting. The next day, they found that they had enough food to survive for only one more day, so they decided to continue their journey with Anju taking the lead. They ended up at a dead end, so they thought about climbing the rock wall, but Shinny told her to find another way. While she was driving the vehicle, he decided to take over because he was bored, and everyone agreed with him. They were bored because there was nothing to do but contemplate the natural scenery. After Shiny took the wheel, they were surprised when he detached the vehicle from the trailer, pulling it, then demolished part of the wall to separate himself from them so they couldn't catch up with him. He told them that according to their prior agreement, whoever took the wheel would be the one to fight the enemies. Raiden realized that he had sensed the presence of enemies in advance, so he wanted to take the lead in order to fight them himself. He told them that there were enemies that could not be avoided and that he had no choice but to fight. He asked them to continue advancing as it would be difficult for the enemies to find them in the forest. The rest tried to cross the barrier he had created, but to no avail. They were angry that he had made the decision on his own to become bait in order to buy them time to escape. Suddenly, communication between them was cut off and Shinny ended up fighting a deadly battle alone against the enemy army. In the evening, the rest of the group prepared themselves by taking their weapons and heading toward the battlefield somehow. Meanwhile, Shinny suffered devastating damage after being hit by a thunderous missile from a cannon. At that moment, he began to hear the voice of someone familiar to him vowing to destroy anyone who tried to harm his princess. Then Shinny saw a huge vehicle heading towards him and realized that they were after him after his vehicle stopped working. When the rest arrived, they started shooting at the remaining vehicles and tried to tell him not to give up, but he was on the verge of death. As time passed, the members of 86 began to fall one by one under the rocket attacks until only Shinny remained, wondering what name he would be called after becoming part of the enemy fleet, as had happened with Shori. On the other side, Vladilena arrived at Sector 86, and when she reached headquarters, Lev told her that they had left and taken the robot with them. When he asked her why she had come even though she was suspended from work, she told him that she wanted to visit the front lines now that she had free time. Then she found out that another group of Sector 86 members had been sent to their deaths after Shinny and his companions left. Lev allowed her to look around the place as she pleased and told her that he had spent a long time watching the children come and go, but that this was the first time he had seen a commander from the state army set foot in the sector. Vladilena was surprised when she looked closely at him and found that he was of the Alba race. Like her, he told her that his wife was from 86 and that he had to dye his hair so that he could go with her and his daughter when they were transferred here. He ended up volunteering for military service to restore his family's civil rights, but soon they met their deaths on the battlefield. He added that when he was assigned here, he asked Shinny if anyone had seen enemy vehicles searching for a despicable man who had failed to protect his family, as he intended to go to them and cause his own death. But Shinny told him that no one had heard anyone calling his name, which made him feel relieved that his wife and daughter had died in peace, and he was certain that he would meet them after his death. He then said that he had told the members of 86 repeatedly that he was of the Alba race and that he would not mind if one of them took his life if it would make them feel better, but none of them took him out, which made him lose his chance to die, and he apologized to Vladilena for delaying her because of his chatter. After that, Vladilena went to take a look around the headquarters and became familiar with how they spent their time in this place and what their lives were like. Then she saw the cat that Shinny and his friends were taking care of, so she followed it until she found it playing with one of the desk drawers. When she opened it, she found a pig-shaped ball inside and realized that he wanted to play. When she looked at what was inside the drawer, she was surprised to find that Shinny had kept a log of the missions they had carried out, and inside she found a satirical cartoon of her with a message from Raiden saying that she would look foolish if she bothered to find for this log, as if he knew she would come to them. Then she was surprised when she found a commemorative photo of all 86 members, and found that those who remained had left her farewell messages before their departure. Karina entrusted her with taking care of the cat after their departure, and asked her to give it a cute name. Vladilena began to cry when she read Shinny's message, asking her to leave some flowers for them when she reached the place they had reached one day. At that moment, she decided to move forward and fight to the death so that their sacrifices would not be in vain.